So imagine for a second that there's an institution, a building, whose entire job is to listen to a nation's pain. I mean, not just to hear it, but to collect it, translate it, and then file it away forever. In this explainer, that's exactly what we're doing. We're going to dissect this archive of suffering, and we're going to explore what happens when a country tries to document its own trauma, and more importantly, what that does to the people who have to do the documenting.
And that right there, that's the heart of this whole thing. See, we're not just talking about getting words down on a page. We're talking about building something, a structure strong enough to hold this enormous, crushing weight of a country's violent history. The real question is, can any structure, any archive, really bear that kind of weight?
Okay, so let's meet our main character, Émile Dassin. He's a translator at a place called the Bureau for Transitional Documentation. Now, this building used to be a customs house, a place where they'd weigh and measure goods, but now its job is to weigh and measure human suffering. Every single morning, he sits down at his desk, and his job is to turn the raw material of memory into an official written record.
And this is a really crucial detail. Émile isn't working from old documents or letters. He's working from voices, actual voices on cassette tapes. And you've got to understand these tapes aren't just data. They are physical objects, little plastic boxes holding the breath, the hesitation, the pain of a real person telling their story.
So, this brings us to the craft of it all. What Émile does isn't just some mechanical task, switching words from one language to another. No, it's an art form with immense moral weight. It's about listening for everything that happens between the words. Just look at this one choice right here. It shows you everything. He's translating the testimony of a woman from tape 0743, and he has to decide, does he use the word frappe, which means to strike, or does he use battu, which means to batter? Now, one of those implies a single hit. The other suggests a prolonged, brutal assault. It's her voice, the way she tells the story, that tells him the truth is battu. And that one word completely changes the official record of her suffering. It's everything. And that's the key takeaway here. He's dealing with a completely different kind of language. His job isn't just to translate words, but to translate a whisper. The punctuation he uses isn't commas and periods. It's the exact moment a voice gets thin or cracks. He's being asked to somehow capture the temperature of water in a memory. It's an impossible job.
And this is where it all gets impossibly complicated. There's an official style guide, right? It probably came from some international consultants, and it demands that all translations be faithful, complete, and neutral. Neutral. But how can you possibly be neutral when you're choosing between strike and batter? How do you translate a silence that's just screaming with meaning? This is the fundamental conflict at the heart of his work.
All right, so now the system itself starts to pull Émile in deeper. He gets a new assignment, conducting the intake interviews himself. This yanks him out of the lonely work of translation and puts him face-to-face with the witnesses, and right up against the Bureau's cold, methodical process for handling them.
So on paper, the process looks super clean, right? It's orderly, almost clinical. It's a bunch of bureaucratic steps designed to turn a human being's story into a file number, to process trauma like it's just another administrative task.
But then he gets the unofficial training from his boss, Commandant Leong. And these rules, well, they reveal the chilling reality of what they're doing. When they cry, you do nothing. Crying isn't a problem to solve, it's just part of the record. He's told not to separate lies from truth. His job is just to record the deposit. The institution isn't there to heal, it's just there to collect.
And this whole idea of collecting leads to a much bigger, much more unsettling question about the Bureau itself. What is this place really for? Is it about truth and reconciliation, or is it about something else entirely?
This line, it comes from a mysterious, anonymous deposition that was found in the archive, and it is absolutely haunting. It suggests this terrifying possibility, that the Bureau's real function isn't to understand the stories, but simply to contain them, to control the narrative. The actual human suffering inside the content is basically irrelevant.
And if you think that's just some abstract idea, well, it becomes terrifyingly real when Émile translates the testimony of Umar Fall. He was a clerk for the old regime. And his argument is basically, hey, I was just a tool. I just processed paperwork. He completely absolves himself of any responsibility for what that paperwork did to people. It's the perfect example of how individuals can just disappear inside the machine.
So if the Bureau is a machine, it pretty quickly becomes clear that it has secret parts, hidden functions. Émile starts to notice things that just don't fit with the official mission, things happening in the shadows of the building.
At first, the signs are subtle. A lawyer for a really notorious exiled minister shows up and leaves with a sealed box. Then, the wife of a dead general, a guy responsible for a massacre, arrives in a government car. I mean, these are not victims coming to tell their stories. This is something else, something political.
And then, Commandant Liang's stark warning confirms it all. There are other rooms in the bureau, closed rooms, where a completely different kind of business is going down. A shadow operation that has absolutely nothing to do with the victims' testimonies.
So this leads us to the critical question, right? What does it all mean? When the exact same place that's supposed to be creating a permanent record of past crimes is also at the same time cutting backroom deals with the people connected to those crimes. The container, the archive, is being used for two completely opposite purposes at once.
And all of this, the sheer weight of the stories, the moral compromises, the secret deals, it all takes a profound, personal toll. So let's bring the focus back to the people, the individuals who are being asked to carry all this weight.
By December, the archive holds 1,847 testimonies. Think about that. That's almost 2,000 lives, 2,000 stories of pain, all compressed onto magnetic tape. Can you imagine the sheer volume of that trauma being funneled through just a small handful of people, day after day?
And that number has a human face. It's the face of Portrays, one of Émile's colleagues. One day, he just packs up his dictionary and leaves. He doesn't file a formal resignation, he just breaks. He walks out, telling his wife, "I cannot do this anymore." The work literally consumes its workers.
Which brings us to this final, devastating line from another one of those anonymous depositions. The worker enters the building enters the worker. There is no exit. You don't just work at the bureau works its way inside of you. It gets into your sleep, your language, your whole nervous system. It becomes a part of you that you can never, ever leave behind. And so in the end, we're left with this question. The weight of a nation's memory, it has to be carried by somebody. It's not carried by an abstract thing like the state or by files in a climate-controlled room. No, it's carried by individuals, the translators, the clerks, the archivists, who are asked to become living containers for all these stories. So the final question really is, who pays the price for a nation to remember?